it will taken by myself. I am Dr. Gyanendra. I have completed my MTech and PhD from NIT Kurukshetra. I have more than 12-year teaching experience, and I have the area of interest is just to friction stir welding, steel processing, and characterization of materials. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Yes, visible.
Thank you, sir. So actually, as we have discussed, or as we have covered almost all type of materials, those are divided or categorized by the application in different industries or different areas. We have discussed about from the starting about the FGMs, about smart materials, about biomaterials, high entropy alloys, power plant materials, and machining of these advanced materials and welding as well. So one common thing we are just seeing from the very first session, the characterization is the thing is common in all type of materials, advanced materials, their machining and welding. So actually characterization is the thing where we find out the effects, where we find out the properties, characteristics of the material, because we want to use it in a further for a particular application. That application requires some properties, requires some performances. For example, as Chandan sir told in the previous session, the thermal power plant materials should be worked as high pressure and high temperature. So high temperature sustainability, high pressure sustainability is the required characteristics in those materials which we are going to use in a power plant. So characterization of material is a very basic and it related to the material science and engineering subject. So first of all, we are going through some basics of the material science, then some processes or techniques which can be utilized to characterize the material. Then we will discuss a case study. So first of all, we have to answer some questions. Why there is a difference between the properties of different kind of materials? So just like why glass is brittle, why copper is ductile? This is a question. If we take a rod of aluminium and one of steel, why it is easier to bend the aluminium rod in compared to the steel? But even in the different alloys of steel, there will be a lot of difference in the properties, such kind of properties. How can I change the property like hardness without changing the composition? That means, is it possible to change the property of the same chemical composition of the same material? Why is wire of copper conducting while piece of brick of wood is non-conducting? Why glass is transparent? Why any typical metal is opaque? But in the modern era, the latest advancement in the area of material, there are availability in number of metallic glasses also. So this is the advancement in the such area. Why does the electrical conductivity of copper decreases on heating, but it increasing in case of silica? Why does iron corrode easily? Why aluminium does not? So what are the reasons behind this? There should be some differences back in the background of the material, in the some other level which is not visible by the naked eye. So generally, we are categorize or we are differentiate the engineering metals into three main categories. Those are metals, ceramic, and polymers. And the fourth type of category, that is hybrid, known as composites. These composites is the mixing of this known materials, above said three type of materials. So the engineering materials, these are metals, ceramic, polymers, and various type of composites of these, as we have categorized. A composite is a combination of two materials where we are taking benefit the one specific property of a material A with second specific property of a material B. Now the hybrid material will be rich in the two specific properties. The type of atomic entities like ions, molecules differ from one class to another, which is turn gives each class of broad favor of properties, as we have questioning later. So this is the reason behind that. And like metal are usually ductile and ceramic are usually hard and brittle. This is the difference between the atomic structure or ions and molecules. Polymers have the poor tolerance to heat, while ceramic can withstand with high temperature. Metal are opaque, while silicate glasses are transparent. Metals are usually good conductor of heat and electricity, while ceramic are poor in these aspects. If we heat semiconductor, their electrical conductivity is increased, while for metal it will decreases. Ceramic are more resistant to harsh environment as compared to metals. So what is the reason behind this? This is the difference between the ions and molecules. So the broad scientific technical segment of material science are shown in the diagram. A material science, material engineer have knowledge about the science of metallurgy, about the thermodynamics, about the kinematics of the atoms, which will decide or which can alter or which can provide the specific physical properties, just like structure and physical properties, just like mechanical properties, behavior of deformation behavior, or electrochemical properties, corrosion behavior of the material. And all these properties will decide the technological aspects of the material. That may be if it is extractive or not, if it is castable or not, if it is easy to forming or not, if it is easy to weldable or not, if it is possible to manufacture by the powder metallurgy or not, is their machining is easy or difficult. So the material tetrahedron is provide the basic knowledge about these aspects of the material. That means what we expect from that material, how that can be changes, what are the processes behind that, and what are the properties we can alter from the alteration of these processes, and how structure decided the properties. So this is this is known as the tetrahedron, where when a certain performance is expected from the component, the expectation is put forth as a set of properties. That means the performance which we want to expect, which are expecting from the material, that may be withstand at high pressure, that may be react on the change on the environmental conditions, or that may be change their shape or in the by the application of the electrical or magnetic field, or to perform in a such manner, in a required manner, by application of the law. So that will be the performance, but that performance will be decided by the confirmed by the set of properties of the material. The material is synthesized and further made into the component by a set of processes. Now, these properties are decided by the processes by which we have manufactured or we have synthesized the material that stays. That processes may be casting, forming, welding, powder metallurgy, etc. So these also the main parameter or main variable to affect the properties of the given material for the same composition. So these processes decide or alter or affect the structure of the material. The structure is determine the property which will dictate the performance of the component. That means all these four variables are connected to each other. That means we expect some performance. That performance is a set of properties. That properties decided by the structure, but the structure decided by the processing. So all these are connected with each other, and these can be understood or these can be studied with the help of characterization. So what determines the property of material? Property. So it not be a composition, cannot just be a composition, even if a few tens of ppm of oxygen in copper can degrade its conductivity. Or can it just be amount of phases present in the total crystal structure? Even a small amount of cementite along grain boundaries can cause the material to have poor impact toughness. Cannot just be a distribution of phases, because several dislocations can weaken the crystal. Cannot just be the defect structure in the phases present, the presence of surface comprehensive stress toughness class, compressive stress toughness class. So as per the above statement, all these four parameters are the basic variables to decide the final property, and that those property will decide the performance of the material. So these four are: first is composition, that means what type of elements we are using to manufacture the material or to develop the material. Second, the phases present in their distribution, that depends on the process which we have adopted to manufacture the or develop the material. Second, that process also decide or also confirms the presence of the defect structures or residual stresses. These defects decide the residual stresses. So we can say composition is the one factor which can be altered by the different type of processes that can produce the phases and their distribution over the material. Due to flaws in the manufacturing process or development process, defects, there will be some structural defects. The combination of these will decide the residual stresses, and the final properties or properties decide the performance of the material. So in the deep, the material property is decided by the two main factors. One is atomic structure, second is electromagnetic structure. Atomic arrangement of the atoms or molecules, the pattern of the arrangement of the atoms or molecules, and electromagnetic structure is the bonding at their particular position by which way they are connected to each other. Essentially, the electromagnetic structure and processing determine the atomic structures. So the properties influenced by two factors by these statements. One is atomic structure, second is electromagnetic structure or bonding characteristics of the atoms. So this implies that a change in the crystal structure due to a phase transformation, that means the same chemical composition. For example, when iron BCC to iron FCC structure is also accompanied by a change in bonding character and simultaneously a change in the properties. It means with the same composition, with the same type of atoms, by atomic structure, we can change the property of the material. So,
Dear Nitin, please mute yourself.
so the above discussion can be discussed in detail. The atom will decide the structure. That structure is decided by the crystal structure and electromagnetic bonding. These three or this structure is affect or results in the microstructure on the broad area. That can be depends upon the manufacturing process. Will decided by the manufacturing process, the presence of the phases and the defects and the residual stresses. So all these three type of defects or phases can contribute in the final property of the material. And when microstructure is go beyond the limits that means the on the broader area, that will decide the component properties, and the component finally perform according to all these behind factors, just like atoms, their structure, their microstructure, and microstructure contains which phases, in which percentage, what type of defects, and how much residual stresses. The defects may be vacancies, dislocations in crystals, twin seed crystal structure, stacking faults, grain boundaries, voids, cracks, etc. So all these together will decide the property of the performance of the final component. That may be gear, that may be crankshaft, that may be connecting rod, etc. Or that may be a semiconductor also. So structure could imply two types of structures. One is crystal structure and second is magnetic structure. So microstructure can be defined as the combination of phases, defects, and residual stresses and their distribution over the total structure, whole structure. So microstructure can be tailored by thermomechanical treatments, just like heat treatment processes. Some are cold processing and hot processing, application of cold and hot processing. We can alter the microstructure. That means we can decide or we can affect the presence of the phases, the presence of the defect in the structure, and the residual stresses with the application of hot or cold processes over the material. A typical component or device could be a hybrid with many materials and having multiple microstructure. That depends on the composition which we are using to develop the material. So what determines the property of material now? Finally, that was the area of science, but now it is the area of engineering. That means an engineer can alter the property, can decide the performance of the material by alteration with the microstructure by the application of some prescribed processes.
Excuse
So
me, sir, sorry to interrupt you. Sir.
Yes, sir.
It seems that slides are not moving. Could you please recheck again?
Sorry, sir.
Yeah, now it is okay.
Is it now?
Yeah, please.
Thank. So there are two types of properties. One are microstructure sensitive, others are microstructure insensitive. That means the properties which can be changed by the variation in the microstructure, and others are not dependent on the variation in the microstructure. So the engineer or a material engineer or metallurgical engineer can alter only those properties which are dependent on the microstructure, and microstructure can be changed or varied with the application of some prescribed processes. So hence one has to keep in focus. One is atomic structure, second is electromagnetic structure or bonding, third is microstructure. So there are 4 pillars of material science or material engineering. These all should be kept in mind when we are starting or initiate to develop new material, or if we want to alter the property of a existing material with the same composition by changing the microstructure. So these are the 4 pillars. One is physical structure, that is atomic or microstructure. Next is electromagnetic structure, that means the bonding between the atoms, that also can be affected by the composition which we are taking to develop the material. Then thermodynamics behind the development of material, then kinetics of the atoms or molecules in the chemical reactions. If one gain understanding of these 4 pillars, one can comprehend most aspects of material behavior and engineer material for applications. That means we can develop or we can alter the properties or we can alter the material according to our requirement if we know or if we have some basic knowledge about these 4 pillars of the material science. The subject material engineering can be advised as the confluence of physics, chemistry, biology, and mechanical engineering. So all these characteristics, all these structures and can be analyzed with the help of material characterization. So characterization is a word. Characterization word describes those features of composition, a particular composition and structure of a material that are significant for the particular preparation, study of material, study of properties or their use, and suffice for reproduction of the material. That means characterization is the study of the chemical composition, of the structure, that may be atomic or that may be microstructure, or it is the study of the properties and the applications, and it is the record or it is the data to reproduce the same material again and again. So if we have some properties of material, then that property can be altered, that property can be varied with the application of some processes. So we always know what type of structure, microstructure, what type of defects, what type of chemical composition is responsible for the change in the particular property. For example, if we want to change a particular property of steel, that may be hardness. So what we can do? We can change the chemical composition, that means the addition of further carbon. Or if we don't have this option, then we can provide some heat process, that is quenching, that also may alter the microstructure of the material, and that will alter the hardness or increase the hardness. So first of all, we have some applications, we have some requirements. With the change of time, there are more and more requirement of the material. First, in the not so much earlier, just before 20-30 years, there was a fan. That fan with 6,000 to 8,000 RPM, taking to a 200 voltage, 200 watt. Now a fan with 1000 to 1200 RPM taking 40 watt. So this is the development of the material. We have developed the winding material. We have developed the other required material for the fan. Those are capable to reduce the weight and power consumption. So first of all, we have some requirements. That means we have more conductivity or less resistance. This is the requirement. This is the performance which a material have to be performed. Now, what a material engineer can do? Material engineer can collect the literature, can collect the data, can collect the knowledge, the what factor which are affecting the electrical resistance of that material, or is there any new material available with the less resistance? Try to find out the opportunities to the utilization of the newer material. So with the help of that knowledge, that engineer will try to alter the chemical composition. That engineer will try to alter the microstructure, atomic structure with the help of prescribed processes, or it may be requirement of development of the new process. So, but ultimately that will provide to that industry or that person which wants a material with the lesser electrical resistance. So it can be decided or it can be initiated by the invention of the new material or development of the new material. So every engineering, every development in the engineering, new inventions, new innovations are just depends upon the innovations and inventions of the new material. There are two ways. One is requirement, second is invention of new material. When material engineers invent or research in new material, then industry try to find out the opportunities for their utilization. So there are two different ways, but all the engineering, innovations in the engineering, all the development in the engineering and product that may be related to the electronics or mechanical or civil or anywhere else, that depends upon the development of the newer materials or alteration or invention in the innovation in the field of material. So this characterization can be divided into four different categories. First is compositional characteristics, that means elements which are utilized to develop the material. Second is structural characteristics, that means what process we have adopted to develop the material, that decide the structural characteristics. That structural characteristics may be atomic structure, crystal structure, or microstructure. Then mechanical characterization, that means study or the collection of the data related to the mechanical properties such as strength, hardness, toughness, etc. Next, thermal characterization, that means the collection of the data, that how that material behaves on improved or higher temperatures or application of the heat. Then functional characteristics, that means all these properties decide the functional characteristics. That means that material, how functions if that is used for a particular application. So first of all, mechanical properties. There are three main mechanical properties. We always studied about that. First is strength, that can be determined by the tensile test on a UTM, universal testing machine, for which we have to prepare a sample in the shape of dog bone or dumbbell shape as per the ASTM code E08. I want to show you this one. That means this standard, how this can be interpreted or studied. So yeah, this is the ASTM standard for tension testing of metallic materials. This ASTM standard provides basic idea about the setup, standard idea about the setup, is all along with the specimen sizes and the shape and sizes, and how we can machine, or how we have to machine that specimen. Yeah, this is the standard dimensions of a specimen for a plate type of sample, and the process of the testing. So it can be studied, or we have to use this one to characterize our material. So then place the sample within the grip as shown along with the extensometer. That extensometer determine the elongation, that is ductility of the material. That means on a specific gauge length, we mount our extensometer that will expand with the extension of the specimen, and that will provide the final extension of the specimen, because it will contract after fracture. So pull the samples at the specified rate. This rate also is described by the ASTM standard. Other measurement related to the for relevance, stain hardening, and plastic stain, you can calculate this one. Second is mechanical property is hardness. Here we are presenting a Vickers hardness tester. So for this sample preparation, first of all we have to prepare sample. That means we have to polish up to the mirror finish, so that we can easily analyze our indenter penetration. So the code or standard is used for this Vickers hardness, that is E92 standard, and this is looks like this one. So Vickers hardness metallic materials, here this standard provide the same informations about the standardization of the indenter, about the standardization of the machining setup, about the standardization of the sample preparation, about the standard of the process of the testing. So this diamond shape indenter penetrate with the application of some load for a specific time, and we can measure this diagonal, two diagonal, and the average of this determine the Vickers hardness with the help of this formula. P is the load, HV is the hardness number, and D square is the average of these two diagonals. So for microstructural analysis, actually these properties should be correlated with the microstructure. That will be the final characterization of the material. So for microstructure, we are using some stages. First utilized at the usual inspection. That means the no magnification is there. That may be X-ray radiography or ultrasonic inspection for just find out the manufacturing defects. So these are used for production defects, porosity, cracks, and inclusions. Then up to 100 magnification, we are utilizing optical microscope, and scan electron microscopy also can be utilized. This provides grain and particle sizes, phase morphology, and anisotropy. Beyond that, up to the 10,000 magnification, then SAM, scanning electron and tunneling electron microscopy, that means SAM and TAM. Then atomic force microscopy can be utilized. These will provide the knowledge about the dislocation, structure, substructures, grain and phases boundaries, precipitation phenomena. Beyond that, we will attain the nano structure, that will be up to the 1 lakh magnification. And here we can utilize X-ray diffraction, scanning, tunneling with high resolution. This will provide the knowledge about the crystal and interface structure, point defects and point defect clusters. So these are the applications, what we want to characterize, what we want to know, at what level we want to analyze our specimen, that will decide the application of the particular technique. So first of all, we will discuss about the microstructure, that means microscopic analysis. That microscopic analysis is not possible without sample preparation. And there are 5 different steps to prepare the sample for microscopic analysis. First is cut sample, that means sectioning of the sample. Next is mounting, next polishing, then etching, and then optical microscopy. So the sectioning or cutting of sample is the decision of the examiner at which area he want to analyze or he want to study it. So that particular area should be cut or sectioned out of the total whole area, and the cutting can be performed with the help of abrasive cutting. It is the most common sectioning method, or electric discharge machining. It also can be utilized. Then microtomy, that is utilized to cutting the sample of the polymers. So we are using not the conventional machining because that machining can produce heat, and that application of that heat affect the microstructure or the other structures of the material. So we should be so much precise. There we have to prevent the generation of the heat during the cutting of the sample. Then sample mounting, because we are utilizing a very small size for the microscopic studies. That's why that was very difficult to hold in the hand. So that's why we have to mount that small size specimen, and there are 4 different techniques through which we can mount that particular specimen. First is thermal mounting. There are some thermosetting or thermoplastic polymers which are in soft condition at high temperature, but in solid state they will grip our specimen and provide a holding area. Other cold mounting, because there are some epoxies or cold setting compounds which are capable to be solidified at the lower temperature or room temperature with the application of some chemical. So we can mount our specimen with the help of cold mounting also. Some adhesive mountings, that means we can adhese or glue our specimen with a larger holder, or we can clamp or we can develop a clamping for the mounting of the specimen. Next is polishing. Polishing, as in case of hardness, we have said that was the mirror finish, but now we have to go beyond that. So first, this is the whole process from the grinding of the material to the polishing of the material. So that grinding to the polishing is depend upon the abrasive materials with the abrasive papers with the increasing number of grit. When the number of grit is increasing, the abrasive size of that paper will be decreases. That means first of all we use some rough abrasive papers, then finer, and then most finer. The final polishing is be done on a velvet paper with the application of some diamond paste and lubricants. Those lubricants are able to flush the grinding particles of the same material or some abrasives. So after polishing, we have to apply some etching. This because the mirror finish material or mirror finish surface of the specimen will not be able to evolve the grain structure. So with the application of some chemical, we are trying to evolve the grain sizes, grain boundaries and defects in the on the surface. So this is just like a mounting. This is the specimen inside the cold setting compound. And after finishing and etching, it can be separated different areas of the microstructure with the naked eyes. So the etching actually is the application of some chemical. The boundaries are more susceptible for that for the chemical reactions because they have some vacancies or slip type of defects. So they are more susceptible, they are ready to react with the chemical. So first of all, the whole grain will be remain unaffected, but the boundaries will be affected by the etching. So the proper utilization of combination of chemical and the application of the time of application is the more important for the etching. So when the grain boundaries react with the etchant, so those are evolved and can be seen or can be captured in the microscope. So after etching, it is very easy to differentiate the different phases. Is it visible?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. So we can differentiate the different areas with the naked eyes. This is a picture just taken by the mobile camera. So here are some different areas. These are two different materials. It is another aluminium alloy. It is another aluminium alloy and joined by the friction stir welding. So we can see the mixing of these two here in the nugget. So etching should be at that level. That means we can differentiate the different areas with the naked eyes. So finally, after sample preparation, we can move to the microscope. So first of all, this is the optical microscope, and it is capable to just provide the surface image at the magnification. Actually, we are using this one up to the 1000x of magnification. These are available with the mode, but we are commonly used up to the 1000x magnification. So it may provide information about the microstructure, grain boundaries, some surface defects, and all. So the results of the optical microscope will be seen like that, seen like this. This is an aluminium alloy, and it is very easy to identify the grain size and grain structure over there. And in next, it is the higher magnification. So here it is very easy. So all the grains have some different reflectivity because it is the microscope is capture the image by the reflection of the light. First of all, apply the light, then record the reflection of the light. So every grain have some different reflectivity. So there will be a contrast between the two different grains. So we can easily understand, or we can find out the differentiate, or we can compare our two different processes. We can compare the application of the heat with the help of microstructure that was provided by the microscope. Next is for more or higher magnification, we can utilize electron microscopes. So electron microscopes, actually this was developed just because of the limitation of the light microscope, because light has some limitations just because of their physics. So in the early 1930s, this theoretical limit had been reached, and there was a scientific desire to see the fine detail of interior structure of organic cell, that is nuclei. So electron microscope are scientific instrument that use a beam of energetic electrons to examine object on a very fine scale. So this required, the study of the nuclei required more than 10,000x magnification, which was not possible using current optical microscope. So the limitation of the optical microscope is the motivation to develop the electron microscopes. So there are three different type of microscopes which are commonly used. First is SEM, scanning electron microscope, that was debuted in 1938 by von Ardenne, with the first commercial instrument around 1965. Its late development was due to the electronic involvement in scanning the beam of electron across the sample. Because that it has taken a lot of time for the development, because it is interfere with the atoms of the sample, then provide the some scattered and secondary electrons which were recorded by the some receivers and provide the information about the microstructure. The TEM, which was started after 1930 but was developed or commercialized before that. So the TEM is the first developed electron microscopy. Here we are using not the interface, but we are using in this a thin layer of the specimen or the material, and the electronic rays transmit throughout that specimen. Next is third one is scanning transmission electron microscope is used to focus beam of electrons scanning through the thin slice specimen, just like in TEM, to form an image. STEM looks like a TEM but produce images as SEM. It is most commonly used for elemental analysis of samples. So the three type of electron microscopy. First is SEM. In SEM, we are producing a beam of electrons which will strike over the specimen, and it will interfere a little bit area under the surface. And after interference or after involved with those electrons or atoms, the atoms which will come back, those are of three types. First is X-ray photons that will provide the information about the elemental analysis, that means the chemical composition, that is known as EDX. Second is secondary electrons that will provide information about the topography or the upper surface of the specimen. Then backscatter electrons that will provide the compositional image. So the pictures, so the results can be categorized into the four different categories of the same. First is topography, that means how it looks over the surface. That means what is the texture and what are the direct relation between this texture and material properties. It will provide information about the topography. Then morphology, the shapes and size of particle making up the object, direct relation between these structures and material properties. We already have discussed all these have relation with the properties, and properties finally decide the performance of the material. Then chemical composition, the elemental and compound, that the object is composed of the relative amounts of them, direct relationship between composition and material properties. Then crystallographic informations, that how the atoms are arranged to create the crystals, or what are the arrangement of the atoms in a unit cell. So the images of the SEM are just looking like that, like this. This is the corroded surface of a steel. It can provide information about that and thickness also. And this is the atomic structures, and this is the elemental informations. These peaks are provide the information about the chemical element. So the second electron microscopy is transmission electron microscopy. The purpose of this microscopy, as we have discussed in this, these three are here, but the electron beam pass throughout the specimen due to the thickness, less thickness of the specimen. So here we can found, or here we can collect elastically scattered electrons, direct beam, and inelastically scattered electrons. So these three type of data we collect and then interpret according to their relations with the crystal structures and other structures. So the purpose of the TEM, using of the TEM, that is imaging the defect like dislocations, because it can work on a very high magnification, then it can understand, or it can capture only a single unit cell. So oxide thickness measurement, imaging and mapping of hybrid precipitations, and advantages of this process, feature as small as 0.12 nanometer can be resolved in HR10 mode. Crystal structure of phases can be detected. So in transmission electron microscopy, in a conventional transmission electron microscope, a thin specimen is irradiated with an electron beam of uniform current density. Electrons are emitted from the electron gun and illuminate the specimen through a 2 or 3 stages condenser lens system. Objective lens provides the information of either image or diffraction pattern of the specimen. The electron intensity distribution behind the specimen is magnified with a 3 or 4 stage lens system and viewed in the fluorescent screen. The image can be recorded by direct exposure of the photographic emulsion or an image plate, or digitally by the CCD camera. So the acceleration voltage of up to the date routine instrument is 120 to 2000 kilowatt, and medium range 2000 to 5000 kilovolt to provide the better transmission and resolution. And in high voltage electron microscope, it will range up to 5000 to 3 megawatt. The acceleration voltage determines the velocity, wavelength, and hence the resolution of the microscope. So here is the difference between the SAM and TEM, working of the SAM and TEM. SAM is interference with the existing atoms just below the surface of the specimen. But in TEM, the lesser thickness is allowed to transmit the beam of electron throughout the specimen, and the information is collected below the specimen after diffraction. So with the help of microscope, we just can find out the images, the information about the microstructure, images about the grain boundaries, images about the grain boundaries defects. With the help of SAM, we can study or we can analyze the atomic and crystal structures and the defects at the level of crystal, and some chemical presence of the chemical elements. So this is one of the most important study, that is X-ray diffraction. X-ray diffraction can work on the nanoscale in the case of magnification, and this XRD provide the information about the presence of the phases. SAM and TEM has the inbuilt setup for the EDX, that is to provide the EDS, that is utilized to provide the information about the elements present in the to determine the chemical composition only, and they can provide the images also, and they can provide the information about the dislocations and other defects. So this XRD is capable to provide the information about the phases, the element, the total compound after chemical composition. So chemical reactions. So it can provide the information about the phases present in the material. So first of all, for X-ray diffraction, we have to produce some X-rays with the help of the setup, and then these X-rays imposed on the specimen by the focusing with the lead screen, the beam of X-ray will pass through the crystal and provide the information about this perfectly about the crystal structure of the material and the data of the diffraction. So the peaks in X-ray diffraction pattern are directly related to the atomic distances. Let us consider an incident X-ray beam interacting with the atoms arranged in a periodic manner as shown in 2 dimensions in the following illustration. And just like here, so it will always apply on an angle that is known as theta, but it will reflect on another angle that also is theta. So that's why we always use a term 2 theta for XRD. So this is the 2 theta, theta 1 is here, theta second is here. So addition of these two thetas is known as 2 theta dimension. So the XRD can provide the information about the distance between the 2 consecutive layer of the atoms, about a single crystal, about the position of the atoms, about the number of atoms present in a single unit cell or in a single crystal. So that can be calculated by a formula that was given by the Drake's WL Drake, that is known as Drake's law. 2d sine theta is equal to lambda. Lambda is the wavelength of the light. So this is the pattern of the data provided by XRD. These are the peaks of the different compounds, and so because every crystal is the combination of the different atoms, different elemental atoms, and every crystal have their own characteristics for the diffraction. So these peaks are the results of the diffraction, and or we can say these peaks are direct information about the distances between the 2 atoms in a crystal. So some international standardization bodies provide the data for these peaks. That means what are the chemical elements present there, and for those elements, what can be the phase present at that particular angle. So we just have to match that these one with the help of, but it is not so much difficult in this time, because there are a lot of softwares are attached along with the XRD, which can provide the direct information about the phase presence or compound presence. So these can be interpreted in such a way, that means 200, 220. These are the Miller indices. Miller indices is the unique property of a crystal that can provide the information about the presence of the compound. So these peaks are on a particular angle that will decide or that will differentiate the compounds from each other. So we have discussed about the characterization techniques, just like mechanical properties, microstructure properties that can be microstructures can be analyzed by the optical microscope, electron microscope, and XRD. So a case study where the project is to fabricate friction stir welded joints of a aluminium alloy and then analyze or characterize those friction stir welded joints for mechanical properties and to establish a correlation with the change in mechanical properties with the change in microstructural properties, characteristics. So because all the all the almost all the welding processes is just to require the application of heat. So friction stir welding is do the same. We have to apply some heat that was produced by the friction between the tool and the specimen. That heat is utilized to soften the material, and a pin is used to mixing that softened material into the welding region. This mechanical mixing and the application of heat is altered or is modified the grain structure, microstructure, grain structure, and mechanical structure or distribution of the phases in the welding zone, and beyond that in heat, thermal and mechanical affected zone or heat affected zone. So the results were analyzed for the mechanical properties, the application of different type of pins are able to vary the tensile strength and the joint efficiency in some pattern, and the application of the heat and the mechanical forces which are applied by the tool pin or tool solder can able to change the microstructure, and that microstructure is able to change the hardness of the specimens. So for microstructure, one specimen was analyzed, and this is the specimen. There is the nugget zone, TMAZ, HAZ on the retreating side and advancing side as well. So the difference between the grain size within the grain sizes or shapes in all the different phases can be compared easily, because this is the HAZ of retreating side, this is HAZ on advancing side, this is nugget zone, the finer equisized grains, and these are the TMAZs. So we can see here some elongated grains just because of application of mechanical force by the tool pin. So another specimen is also characterized by the microstructure, and here we have written with the study of the literature that these precipitates are of MgZn2, but this is not confirmed till then. So that we going for the further magnification with the help of SAM to confirm the distribution of the precipitates. So these are the precipitates which are distributed over the nugget zone, and there is the difference between the distributions. Here we can see some clusters. So this proper distribution and clustering of these precipitates is provide the difference between the properties, properties of two different specimens. So, but still we don't know these specimens are of MgZn2, so that we perform EDS on SAM and XRD on XRD setup. So the SAM, EDS on SAM provides the elemental information, just like the presence of the aluminium, magnesium, zinc, copper, silicon, iron, oxygen, etc. But the XRD provides the informations about the presence of the MgZn2 with the help of these peaks. So we have matched, or we have interpret this data with the help of some standard data provided by some standardization agency. So we found those were MgZn2. One more way to characterize the material or property of the material, that is fracture analysis. That means how material behaves when it will go under the extreme positions of the load. That means when the material fracture or going to the failure, what is the behavior of the failure. So there are two specimens selected, the one of which is welded with the lower heat input, and one is, sorry, proper heat input, and one is lower heat input with the lower heat input. So we want to analyze the fracture pattern of these two. So that's why we again going for the same magnification on the same, and we capture the two different patterns of the failure. First one is honeybee comb pattern. That means this is totally ductile pattern of the fracture, and this is brittle ductile pattern of the fracture. So here we can see this is the this is not the tensile fracture only, but a shear fracture also have taken place here. But here we cannot see the shear fracture because of the flatness of this fracture surface. So the presence of this honeybee like this one is the proof of the ductile fracture, but the plane surfaces, plane areas in this same image are the proof of the brittle fracture. So this is all over from my side. Thank you. So
Very energetic, Gyanendra ji, and very nice presentation. I think you took a lot of efforts to arrange it. One very important thing, when we do X-ray, normally we have started analysis of whether it is crystalline or amorphous. That
yes,
is based on the width of the peak. That is very important thing. Second thing, we will get the Bragg's peaks, which carries a very important information related to the interplanar distance. That is
yes,
and the degree of crystallinity, etc. So that is very
yes.
important. I think you covered most of the things which is suitable for your objective of characterization of any materials. Quite a good theme. Thanks
Thank you.
for this. I think there is no more
Thank you.
question. Already we have published hundreds of papers. So therefore, it is not good to have the discuss this thing. They give chance to ask the questions to other participants.
Yes.
Many thanks. So very nice. We will speak after the course. Carry on, please, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any other query? So thank you very much to listen me with a lot of patience, and thank you very much for your cooperation. I am very thankful to all the participants to take part. We are just on the finishing because we have only two further sessions, technical sessions. One is technical and one is non-technical. So thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Dr. Gyanendra.
Yes, sir. Vikas, sir.
Yes, sir. There is a question in the chat box that whether
Sorry, sir.
SEM and TAM can give better results for composite materials.
Yeah, sir. For every material, because they are capable to provide the information about single unit cell. They are capable.
So this is the question of Bhuminath R.
Yeah, no problem, sir. No problem. Actually, these can work on a highest magnification and provide the information at the level of atoms, not on the grains microstructure, not on the grain boundaries or grain properties, but these are capable to provide the information on the atomic level. But atoms are present in the either that may be a metals or non-metal, composite or non-composite. These are capable.
Dear participants, if you have any questions, please post or ask to Dr. Gyanendra. So there is another question that usually size will be less now. This is the cause. Okay. So he is asking
Yeah,
about
actually, he is asking about the heterogeneity of the. Yeah, but we have to identify the particular area where we want to analyze with the same intent, because that will provide information for a so much small area that may be in itself. So first of all, we have to identify the area with the help of microscope or the SEM at the lower magnification, then go further with the more magnification. So that means, first of all, we utilize 100, then 1,000, then 10,000, then 1 lakh. So we can analyze that particular particle which we want to get the information. So thank you very much. We will meet again morning at 10 with Dr. D.K. Garg with the topic of applications of novel materials in modern industry. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.